Well, hey guys, just got something in the mail, Royal Mail actually, and I had a pretty good idea what that was, and that was, let's see if I can get this out, Dan Electro 68. It's a sticker in one of his bottle openers here, or keychains. So thanks a lot, Neil. I still have to figure out what I'm doing with all mine. The ones I've gotten so far, I've just been storing them in here until I set my my own system up. I still have to figure out what I'm doing for a display board, or for that matter, what I'm doing for a sticker or badge or hat or whatever the hell I'm doing. I still haven't decided what I'm doing. Anyways, haven't done any videos for the last couple of days here. I've been kind of, well, I got frustrated on Sunday when I was trying to line up the passenger side, and I was trying to work out a way to lift up the door and tighten the hinges where I had it in the position. I actually got really pissed off with it because I couldn't make anything work. You know, like all my gaps were all wacky and couldn't get the lines to line up. You know, like this is with upward pressure on it. It was much further down than that. And then I dinged up the door. And oh, I'm sorry. There you go. You're not ignored now. Anyways, I dinged up my door, the inside of the door back there, and so I just went and I said, "Bugger this! I'm getting frustrated," and stopped. But I'm going to try again tonight. I think I've come up with a little bit better idea for supporting the hood. When I take the fender off, I'm just going to let it drop down. I'll probably have to take the hinge completely off, but I'm just going to let it drop down and rest on the core support, and I'll just put some of my foam like that on it, and it should be good enough. You know, like it won't be resting the full weight. You know, but I think that with the if I try and leave the hinge hooked up, it's just gonna hit the firewall, which obviously I don't want. Anyways, I'm just rambling. It's really hot here today, and it might be 10 degrees colder in the shop, but the humidity is still here, and even though I haven't done anything yet other than walk out to the house with a big bottle of water, I'm hot as hell. Anyways, maybe I'll open the big door here and get some, even though it'll warm the place up a little more, it'll get a little bit of airflow going. Yes? That's right. Anyways, I'm going to try and do some work here. Okay, I think I got the door where I want it. That looks pretty much lined up with that line. We've got a gap here. This corner is very close. That's the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about. But otherwise it's there, and I'll show you something. This is what I did so that I could see how much I'm moving this thing. I put a piece of tape that was roughly along the top of the hinge. You know, it's not 100% exactly along there, but that's what it is. And I put a witness mark on the tape and on the hinge itself, and that's how little I had to move it. If I moved it, you know, that's probably about a 1/16 of an inch. If I moved it a 1/16 of an inch more, it was absolutely hitting here. If it was back where the two lines match up, it was hitting back here. That's how little adjustment that needed. I really wish they would have had a different system for doing this. You know, almost like almost like a screw system where it would, you know, rack. You'd move it along on a rack. But I guess it's one of those things where they never expected that anybody ever was going to be adjusting it again. So why put any complication in there? Oh man. Anyways, now the door, how I did this was I did use my ratchet straps. I hooked one ratchet strap onto the bottom hinge, and I would have preferred it hooked onto the door part of the hinge, but I had to hook it over the outer part. So it means that was sprung a bit, which isn't, you know, sprung in the direction that I would have liked for it to have been sprung, but I had to deal with it. Just, you know, moved it a little more. And then I hooked the other side into the door handle, which is probably putting a bit of stress on the door, but I have to live with it. Gap here looks pretty wide actually, but you know, if it's any narrower, that's going to hit there. So I kind of have to, that's what I have to work with. And, you know, you could say, well, tilt the door that way, you know, exaggerating it, of course, but then, you know, this part is already a problem. So that's the best I think I can do. And, you know, the only other way to fix that issue is literally to drop the door down some, and then I lose this mark here. And I don't think I want to, unless it becomes a problem, and I guess I'm going to be taking the fender off again. Anyways, so I think I'm done with that. And now what? I guess I put the fender back on, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do with this these hinges here, I suppose, because once the door, you know, the doors are the hardest part to align, and in some ways I wish I would have aligned them before I put the weather stripping on. But if I would have done it before I put the weather stripping on, I would have really had a problem, because I would have, you know, obviously I had the problems with adjusting having to adjust the doors outwards. If I could speak, please. Okay, there we go. So I had the problem with the doors needing to be further outward so that the weather stripping wasn't so heavily compressed. And if I would have adjusted the doors at that point, I probably would have been in trouble, because I'm not sure how I would have done it. I guess I could have left those hinges on and then just, you know, undone it from the door and taken the door off at that point. But nevertheless, I'm rambling. I'm hot as hell. Okay, there we go. That's probably about as good as it's gonna get. It's not great, but the lines are more or less lined up. The door is not quite flush, but you know, it's probably as good as the factory was done, which is not acceptable to me, but I don't think I can do better. You know, like, I think it's the best I'm going to be able to do. Once again, here's another example of I should have had the door mounted and set up when I put the rocker on, because the rocker's tucked in a little bit further than everything else. It's not that bad, but it's a little bit in. But regardless, okay, I'm going to put the fender back on and probably die of the heat. Wow, it's hot today. I don't know. You know, like, for anybody in the southern states, like Darren or anybody like that, it's probably a joke for me to say, but it's like about 34 here today. And that, I don't know what that works out to. That must be in the mid-90s or something like that. And it's very, very humid. So that puts it up around 38, which is right around, I don't know, 98 Fahrenheit with the Humidex. So it's pretty rough for me, for a guy from northern Saskatchewan. You know, the heat doesn't do me too well. Anyways, okay, so I worked through it and got the fender on. It's roughly, well, it's aligned, and I'm just trying to decide if I want to try and close up this gap. But I think I really have to wait until. Well, I actually probably shouldn't close it up, because the reality is this gap is smaller than it should be. They really should even out, so the door should actually come forward, but I kind of don't have much of a choice here with that. So I'm going to live with it, and we'll fit everything together and we'll see how we go. So the next step is going to be figuring out why this hood is sitting so high. Like, that's sitting, you know, 3/4 of an inch high off the fenders, and I don't think there's that much adjustment in the hinges, so we'll have to figure out why that's the case. And it does the same thing on both sides, and I've shown it before. Actually, this is almost worse. This is closer to an inch, and it's not that it's going to go down more. If I try and push it down, that's the limit of travel for the hinges, so got to figure that out. But that's okay. Now, obviously, the hood is sitting forward a bit, and I do have the hood put as far forward as it will go on the hinges at the point where they attach the hood itself. So that one is going to be an easy one to adjust. I'll leave it that way just so. I must not have it even. Or maybe the fenders aren't even. See? There you go. That's one reason why maybe the fender does have to come back. But the fender can move without it being a big deal, as long as the cowl is off, because there's just 2 bolts here and one at the bottom of the fender on the inside. And I had to put a fair few shims down there. I had to put, is the light going to turn on? Is the light on? I don't know. I can't tell. There's 3 shims down there, and I actually took most of the shims out up here. There's just 2 1/8 inch shims here, and there actually is almost too much shims because it's actually standing out a little bit further from the door. But I don't want to bring that in. You know, I could take the shims out completely, and that would bring that tighter against there, but I don't know if I want to do that because of the way that the door is. I don't want it to clip the edge of the fender. Oh, it was still a work in progress, I guess is the best way of putting it. Anyways, I won't bore you guys too much more. I think that's it for today. I need to do some shimming on the front here as well at the core support. I got to do some shimming underneath the cab, you know, so that it's in the position I want it to be in, and so on, so on, so on. So this will be going on for the rest of the week if I can bear to be out here. Tomorrow it's going to be even worse. It's going to be as hot as today, but then it's going to be raining, so it's going to be basically 100% humidity around here, so it's not going to be fun. Anyways, once this shimming is done, then the next step is going to be to, well, I guess I got to figure out what I want to do next, but I think it's going to be the electrical. When you're running lines, I'll put in the rad, and then that'll be at the point where I can do my milestone thing, which is to start the engine. But there's still a few other things to do with that, which is, I think I'm going to pull the accessory brackets off, and I'm going to repaint them because they corroded in the time. I have to replace the harmonic balancer and the fuel pump because both of them got damaged in the infamous dropping the engine in stunt. And apart from that, I think I've had enough for today. I'm too hot, and I think doggies want to go to bed. So, I'll see you guys later.